guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion, and that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun. Welcome.
All right, guys. Today's date, June the 11th, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we do get started, guys, let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means we are unapologetic. We are unapologetic, much like ABC News, but at the same time, guys, we do pride ourselves on citing from reputable sources with award-winning journalism. We don't do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, wherever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. We only give you nothing but the facts. At the same time, guys, we do try to watch your language on this show, but words do fly. At the same time, guys, there may be videos or news bits that are shown on this podcast that might be too intense for younger viewers. So viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So there's another way I can start this except to say, well, either the honeymoon is over, and it more than likely is. If so, we are all along for the ride. But in case you were wondering, the two mean girls decided to have a Twitter war.
Stunning public breakup.
Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if it went well anymore. I was surprised.
Just days after that lavish Oval Office send-off.
He's done a fantastic job.
So I expect to remain a friend and an advisor.
President Trump and his once top ally, Elon Musk, now in a nasty public feud.
I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
All starting this morning when the president was asked about the former Doge leader's criticism of his so-called Big Beautiful Bill, which extends the Trump 2017 tax cuts and eliminates taxes on tips and overtime. Musk slamming it, saying it spends too much.
Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here.
The president, who recently showed off his Tesla at the White House, saying Musk's opposition began because the bill eliminates electric vehicle tax credits, which hurts Musk's business.
He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate.
Musk responding in real time on X. False. This bill was never shown to me even once. Moments later, writing, whatever, keep the EV solar incentive cuts in the bill, but ditch the mountain of disgusting pork. I pressed Trump about Musk's criticism.
And this is the guy you put in charge of cutting spending. Should people not take him seriously about spending now? Are you saying this is all sour grapes?
No, he worked hard and he did a good job. And I'll be honest, I think he misses the place. People leave my administration and they love us. And then at some point, they miss it so badly, and some of them embrace it, and some of them actually become hostile. I don't know what it is. It's sort of Trump derangement syndrome.
Put the signs up, put the hat on. Let's go.
All of it a sudden shift for Musk, who enthusiastically campaigned for Trump. Today, the president suggesting he would have won in 2024 without the support of the world's richest man.
I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway.
Minutes later, Musk firing back, writing, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Such ingratitude. And this afternoon, the war of words escalating even further. President Trump posting, Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate, and he just went crazy. And that the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. Musk then writing, time to drop the really big bomb. Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they've not been made public. Musk offered no evidence to back up his accusation, and nothing made public has implicated Trump, who's denied any involvement in Epstein's criminal behavior. The White House responding to Musk's claim, saying it's a, quote, unfortunate episode from Elon. The president late today posting, I don't mind Elon turning against me, but he should have done so months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever presented to Congress.
Across the board, Tesla shares.
Meanwhile, as all of this unfolded, Tesla stock plummeted, losing over 14% of its value.
All right, Garrett Hake joins us now live. Garrett, you also pressed the president on another major headline, his new travel ban on 12 countries.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. This new ban includes Haiti, Iran, and Yemen. The president says those countries don't do enough to vet travelers and cited the Egyptian national who overstayed his visa and is now charged in that Colorado attack. But when I asked him why Egypt wasn't included on this list, he said they have things, quote, under control. Democrats have called this new policy reckless and discriminatory.
Well, let's call it what it is, folks. The mean girls are fighting. The honeymoon is over. Elon got what he wanted and decided to dip. And then, the real size of them came out. Not that I have a dog in this fight. We knew this was this was bound to happen anyway, that Elon was on his way out because Tesla is basically a dumpster fire now. He's trying to save what he can of his Starlink and SpaceX businesses, even though he's still considered, for some odd reason, the richest man in the world. At the same time, Trump, tries, I should say Taco. We got to keep on. Taco is just the name they stick with this man. But they have it out. I took away his ED mandate. He didn't like that. So, he decided to go sour grapes, leave my administration, which seems to be an era of delusion of Trump withdrawal, if you will. It's amazing how much Taco is full of himself. But I love the fact that the last thing that Musk tried to do or try to say was, oh, by the way, Trump's in the Epstein files. And water is wet. Anybody that's been paying attention in the last 5 years have seen pictures with Taco and Epstein. He's been on chartered planes. It has already been reported he was on chartered planes with Epstein. So why should we be surprised that Elon, you're not really saying anything that we already don't know. Matter of fact, it goes all back to the Epstein files, which again, that's a whole other rabbit hole of, I assume there are more people on there, and yet somehow it's being kept under wraps. But again, that's tinfoil hat territory. We're staying away from that. We're sticking with the facts. Elon and Taco had a falling out. Makes me wonder if Taco's going to keep that red Tesla that he decided to use the White House lawn as a used car salesman lot to do it. At the same time, the bill is terrible. We've already sat there and said on this podcast how terrible this bill is. We have sat there and said how dangerous this was. Economists have sat there and said this will immediately put us into almost a second Great Depression. This will put us into the second Great Depression. At the same time, we are seeing businesses who are hurt by these tariffs that are also a part of this bill either close shop or unfortunately either close shop and have to let go of people because the tariffs are just simply not enough to basically try to keep a profit and overhead and people employed under. So again, Elon hasn't said anything in the tweets, and everybody's like, "Oh, but he's saying that he's with Epstein." That's what you took from that. You didn't take away from the fact that Elon was considered a special government employee that was not elected by constituents, given access to things he shouldn't have, awarded his company's contracts that he really should not have got because of conflict of interest, cut jobs, ruined people's livelihoods, wrecked families upside down, and now he wants to sit there and play truth hunter. I will give him one thing, though. One thing and one thing alone. If it was not for him, if it was not for douchebag Joe Rogan, I firmly believe Taco would not be president. If there's one thing Musk can stand on that he might have a point in, if it was not for him, if it was not for that Joe Rogan podcast, I firmly believe Taco would not be president. Actually, if it wasn't for that, I think Taco would be sitting in a jail cell right now. So I will give you credit for that, for tapping into the hatred of young white napkins in this country and basically making sure that other people, I gotta give it to them, it wasn't just napkins that voted for Taco. Other countries did too, which we did cover, but I'll give Elon credit at least for that. But what's so crazy about this is he has the nerve to not only argue when the honeymoon is over, he decided now he has a new target. He decided now he has a new target, California. Because you know why? Because ICE agents, the new Gestapo, are going after everybody because their boss, Stephen Miller, the racist SOB that he is, has declared that they should be arresting everybody. They should be arresting illegal immigrants everywhere, schools, Home Depots, anywhere. Even the actual immigration courts, where folks have legally won the right to stay, and you have these masked ICE agents taking them and deporting them without due process. So, what does California have to do with all this? Well, ICE decided to descend upon California, and specifically Los Angeles had a bone to pick with that. Hence why we are now pretty much where at the line of Billy Joel's where we didn't start the fire, Taco did.
Then Donald Trump sending more troops into Los Angeles as anti-ICE protests now continue. He is mobilizing 700 active duty Marines to join the National Guardsmen who are already there in LA against the governor's wishes. Just moments ago at the White House, President Donald Trump doubled down on deploying the military to an American city, claiming that Los Angeles was under siege.
If we didn't get involved, Right now, Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses of Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape. We're not playing around.
How will you determine whether or not there is an insurrection?
Look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection.
But it's not just there. We are also seeing immigration protests spread to other cities, with even more demonstrations planned for later on today. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal is live for us right now in Los Angeles. Camila, President Trump didn't rule out sending troops to other cities if similar protests were to occur. What else did he say just moments ago there in the Oval Office?
Yeah, Morgan. So multiple times he said that LA would be under fire if you did not have the Guard here. And in terms of sending the National Guard, the president said that he needed to act fast, that he couldn't essentially wait for Governor Gavin Newsom, and essentially that he wouldn't wait for other governors. He wants to act and says that the National Guard will be here in Los Angeles indefinitely until there is no more danger. My colleague Garrett Haake also asked him about the Marines and their role here in Los Angeles. Here's what the president said.
The Marines is, a lot of people think, an escalatory step, though. These are guys who fight wars. Are you at all concerned that things could get out of hand with Marines?
When I see people
City?
Throwing concrete into cars, when I see people, the kind of people that I saw on your network doing danger to the police and to the military and to the National Guard, no, it's okay. These are very dangerous people. They're bad people. They were met with heavy force and they folded.
And I think that local leaders here and protesters would say that Los Angeles is not burning or would not necessarily be burning if the Guard wasn't here. So, of course, we're waiting to see more reaction, but I think that's not well received necessarily here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, what is the current status, though, of those Marines, the National Guardsmen who have already been sent to LA?
Yeah, the Guard has been protecting some of the federal buildings, but we can say that the protests have been more scattered, have not been as violent as they were, say, over the weekend. There was definitely protesters still out last night. And at the end of the day, usually what happens is that they declare an unlawful assembly. So they essentially clear the streets. They make everybody go home. And yes, there was still some looting. When you walk through some of the streets in Los Angeles, there's a lot of graffiti. The Los Angeles Police Department saying they're going to look through all of this and investigate and try to get people to be held accountable for this. But usually what happens is that mostly it is a peaceful protest throughout the day. And then there's usually some group or one person that escalates it. A lot of people trying to prevent that from happening so that things don't continue to escalate it.
Okay, so what we got so far is that, like they said, ICE agents being in California, specifically in cities like Los Angeles, trying to, what they say, capture illegal immigrants. Here's my thing. If you got to go to a Home Depot to pick up immigrants, it's kind of hard to sit there and argue the fact that you're picking up criminals when they are just people that are just looking to work. You're picking up kids from school. You're picking up kids from school, which is also a scary freaking thought. You're basically, violating everything in the Constitution because Stephen Miller decided that he did not like the fact that the numbers did not suggest that enough illegal immigrants are being picked up. That's all it is. So Los Angeles sat there and said, we're not going to freaking take it. So, of course, they protested and bonded together. And yes, what happened is that Gestapo, or I should say Kristen Noem, or I should say Ice Barbie, went back and said, well, the problem is with this is that, they're fighting us. We need more assistance. Hence why Taco said, well, I'm staying out the National Guard. Because a lot of people are probably wondering, and if you're listening to me, you're probably wondering, well, why can't he send the army? Well, there's a certain act that prevents that, the Policy Comantas Act. And I apologize if I completely destroyed the pronunciation of this act. The reason behind this act is it prevents it prevents the president from deploying the army or military onto a U.S. City, unless it's certain circumstances. Now, the only two reasons that the military can be deployed in an American city is that either there is a massive insurrection or rebellion. That's it. That is the only times. Unless, and it also has to be authorized by Congress. But usually unless there is a rebellion or a usurping or an insurrection, which the details of those set conditions has to be very freaking clear. And Congress, again, has to approve military action. The president himself, meaning Taco, cannot just simply wave a wand and send military personnel to said city. Even though they did mention the article just now, they're trying to attempt to send 700 Marines. So they're trying to skirt this act, but we shouldn't be surprised. Taco trying to take the Constitution and just, he's taking the Constitution, he's writing it in crown and making it what he wants to do because he wants to be a king. He wants to be a dictator. And he wants to, again, still under this delusion that we are still massively infected with the worst of the worst. And here's the thing I will say. California might actually be the start of all this. A city, not only a city, but a state that honestly has had enough. Although Taco has threatened to pull its subsidies, I don't think you want to basically, and again, this is where I say Taco threatening to take away certain things, especially with certain states whose revenue outputs almost other states. Keep in mind, California, I believe, is either the second or third largest economy in the world. Think about that. California, a state out of the 50 states, by itself is a micro universe of financial wealth. At the same time, they contribute nearly $80 billion to the federal government. Here's the thing. It's not the fact, and I'm pretty sure this has been said before on many other podcasts, California could honestly be okay on its own. It's the rest of the U.S., it's the U.S. government that may have a problem missing that $80+ billion in revenue. And it's not just them. DC, Washington State, all of them contribute major amounts to the federal government's budget. And again, these three states I just actually described could actually be okay on their own. That screams volumes. But outside of threatening military, I keep on saying invasion, but that's what it is. It's an invasion. Because Taco wants to invade California. He also has called for the arrest of California Governor Gavin Newsom, in which I love the fact that he sat there and said what we're all thinking.
Lawsuit against the administration over the National Guard order. It comes as a war of words heats up between President Trump and Governor Gavin Newsom. ABC's Perry Russum joins us now with the latest on that. Good morning, Perry.
Rihanna, good morning to you. Tensions between President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom escalating as both leaders clash over the federal response to the protests. White House border czar Tom Homan floating the idea of arresting Newsom for allegedly obstructing federal immigration enforcement. Homan later walking that back, saying there had been no discussion of actually arresting the governor. But Trump has continued to criticize Newsom publicly, calling him lawless. Last night, Newsom describing the deployment of troops as chaotic and poorly managed.
Just get it over with. Arrest me. Move on. We have hundreds of graduations down here. Kids are not going to their own graduations. It's mass panic out here in the nation's largest county, in the nation's largest state. Good hardworking people, decent people. These are not the criminals. These are not the thugs.
At a White House event yesterday, ABC's Karen Travers asking Trump what crime Newsom had committed that would warrant his arrest.
I think his primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job. What he's done to that state is like what Biden did to this country. And that's pretty bad.
And then meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth heads to...
You know what I want to do? The next time we cover anything that Taco says, I want to get a Biden count because Biden has got bigger fish to fry. The former president has got bigger fish to fry, and yet with the current Taco, Biden just seems to be in his head like a bad, almost like the worms in RFK, almost like the worms in RFK's head. And I wish I could make that a joke. That dude is probably, that brain is probably full of amoebas. But the thing I'm getting at is here, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has sat there and told Taco, "You want me? Come get me. Arrest me." Because like you said, you have kids, and like we described before, people being picked up from Home Depot, people being picked out of their homes, kids being picked out of high school graduations, folks getting picked up from immigration courts from cases that they've won to stay or have actually gotten their visas or green cards, and they're still getting picked up. So yeah, I can understand exactly where Governor Newsom is coming from. He's like, we're done. And he is, I mean, say what you want about California. California has learned a lot of things, specifically Los Angeles, since the 92 riots. They've learned that people can definitely band together. And when a big-ass neighborhood bands together, law enforcement has no shot. It's not because the Warriors wasn't a movie. Those first 20 minutes was a message. I'm just saying. Can you dig it? But outside of that, though, for some odd reason, Speaker Mike Johnson, who apparently does not have enough to do in his day, decided to also call out Governor Newsom, because I honestly think the more Mike Johnson speaks, the more I'm like, he is stuck in a time warp, because he has called for something I haven't heard since I was 5 years old, and it was on a Monty Python episode of the Holy Grail.
The president said, possibly in jest, that if he were Tom Homan, he would arrest Gavin Newsom. Do you believe that Newsom should face consequences in a legal way?
That's not my lane. I'm not going to give you legal analysis on whether Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered. I'll say that. I mean, look, he's standing in the way of the administration and the carrying out of federal law, right? He is applauding the bad guys and standing in the way of the good guys. He is trying to, he's a participant, an accomplice in our federal law enforcement agents being not just disrespected, but assaulted. This is a serious problem. And the governor is now filing a lawsuit against the president. What a joke. Do your job, man. That's what I tell Gavin Newsom. Do your job. Stop working on your rebranding and be a governor. Stand up for the rule of law. He's not doing that. So I don't know what the ultimate measure will be there, but I know that in the interim time, the president of the United States is showing real leadership, and we're not going to allow LA to burn. We've seen this movie before, right? This thing gets out of hand real quickly, especially in a big city like that. And if local and state officials are unwilling or unable to do their job, the president of the United States will do his. And
all I can sit there and say, you know what? I don't know who's a bigger member of the Gluteus Maximus Club for Taco, because at first Lindsey Graham was just running away with it. Now Mike Johnson, House Speaker Mike Johnson, he's giving Lindsey Graham a run for his money right now. Oh, well, why doesn't Gavin Newsom be a governor? Why is he not standing up for the rule of law? He is. But here's the thing that they're not saying. It's not the governor. The governor is actually doing everything legally. He's not actually standing out there. He's not ordering the LAPD to not cooperate. He's not out there with the rest of the protesters that are, stopping ICE, or I should say the new Gestapo, from going into areas, scaring and breaking up families. Governor Newsom's actually doing it the legal way, because, the only way you can stop Taco these days is simply be in a court, unless he decides to play the trap card of saying that the Supreme Court is the only place he'll actually accept judgment, and he won't even accept that if they go against him. But The thing that gets me is that Mike Johnson says that he should be tarred and feathered. I haven't heard tarred and feathered since Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail. This guy is so out of touch, and I shouldn't be surprised by that because he's basically an outdated. He's how can I put this so nicely? He's exactly what most Republicans see themselves as. Old-fashioned, but really just stuck in a time where, white privilege was considered normal and oppression of other races because they were different than the white people was also normal. And that's a scary thought for a guy who was trying to push through a bill, which he did. He got a bill pushed through his House of Representatives that is currently now sitting with the Senate and could also put us in the second Great Depression if it's passed. But calling for tarred and feather and saying that Gavin Newsom as the governor is not doing his job, and yet still firmly pressing his lips on the buttocks of Taco, and I mean full on press, leave a mark. Go back and wipe because you might have aimed a little too high. That's Mike Johnson for you. But hey, in the middle of all this, Taco still wants a parade. And I still cannot believe with the fact they're trying to basically say California is becoming an insurrection state. Taco still wants a parade, although it's supposed to be celebrating the 250 years of the military, not himself, but you couldn't tell.
Final preparations are underway for Saturday's parade in Washington, honoring the 250th anniversary of the Army and coinciding with President Trump's 79th birthday. Officials say security will be tight, including drone surveillance and over 18 miles of anti-scale fencing. Military hardware is also rolling in from across the country.
We brought 28 Abrams tanks, 28 Bradley fighting vehicles, 6 Paladins, and then 28 Stryker infantry carriers. Overall, that is 90 vehicles of the 150, which will be in the parade on 14 June.
Army officials say they expect around 200,000 people to attend. Final preparations are on.
So what's crazy about this is I don't understand it. Like, don't get me wrong, support the troops, love the armed forces. For all those that have served and continue to serve, thank you for your service. We understand that. But do you think this is the right time to have a military parade? That seems very Nazi-ish. I'm just gonna be honest because Trump does have certain people's qualities. Yeah, let's go with that. Certain people's qualities. Because the thing I'm not understanding is you would think as he's trying to send Marines into California that he still wants a military parade. And this is the same guy talking about wasteful spending. Wasteful fraud and abuse spending. And he wants a military parade. Figure that one out. But moving right along, though, I do have to get to his other people within his administration. Guy who should never be allowed anywhere near anything as far as a health policy or code or anything of that nature. RFK, his Secretary of Health, has honestly put us back if this does go through. This man has done something that no other health secretary has ever done with the CDC.
Let's turn to another major headline out of the White House this morning. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. making a dramatic and stunning move. It will reshape how vaccines are recommended in this country. Garrett, good morning. What can you tell us?
Yes, Savannah, in this case, all 17 members of the CDC's Independent Vaccine Advisory Committee are being removed by Kennedy, who accused the committee of being, quote, plagued with conflicts of interest and little more than a rubber stamp for any vaccine. This committee consists of public health experts who make recommendations on who should get what vaccines. The decision by Kennedy has spurred enormous backlash among public health officials who see this as, frankly, a disaster and who say that the committee has been a trusted source for vaccine guidance for generations. protests. Many worry that the anti-vaccine Kennedy could appoint similarly constituted allies to this board now. Kennedy has this long history of skepticism to opposition to some vaccines. And this is just his latest move to come under significant scrutiny. You may remember just last month, Kennedy said that COVID vaccines would no longer be recommended to healthy children and healthy pregnant women. That's something, ironically, this committee was set to discuss at a scheduled meeting for later this month. What happens now and what happens to that meeting, very much an open question.
Actually, it's not an open question. We should be concerned. He removed qualified individuals who could actually establish vaccine policy, and he removed them all. Why? I'll tell you why. Because they disagreed with him, because they don't support him. Keep in mind, RFK is an anti-vaxxer. He also sounds like a person that's like, he just needs one good cough to clear out his throat, or just a good Ricola or hot toddy. But he's also the same guy that questions why infants get so many vaccine shots. He questions the COVID vaccine. He questions all of these things. RFK is not a physician. He has no experience. He's never worked in any type of health informatics. He's never worked as far as a healthcare professional. He is a guy that puts on a tinfoil hat and basically spouts things, and some people follow it. This is also the guy that's basically had worms in his brain. This is also the guy that decided to take a whale home and study it. This is also a guy who supposedly and allegedly left a bear carcass in Central Park. And now, not too long ago, he was a guy that was just dipping in not so clean river water. And at the same time, even before that, was also the same guy that says, maybe y'all shouldn't take advice from me, while giving advice at the time where the measles outbreak was happening. And instead of actually supporting the vaccine, he tells parents, oh, well, just give them more heaps of vitamin A. To which physicians said, no, that's a terrible idea and dangerous. And so what do we lead to now? It leads us now to this man removing anybody that would basically voice their opinion against him, to where he would be able to move forward with his anti-vaccine policy. He would move forward with removing vaccines for infants. I can almost guarantee all that. Because again, he's the same guy that tried to put out his Make America Healthy Again report that was full of misquotes, misinformation, and citations that were led up to trash. And now he basically sat there and told people who were smarter than him, who were well qualified, who were more qualified than him, that their services are no longer required. But that's not the only problem with the CDC.
So they carefully review data on vaccines. They debate the evidence, and then they vote on who should get the shots and when. Well, now they've been fired, all of them. All 17 sitting members of the independent committee that advises the CDC on vaccines, gone. And now some CDC staff are staging a walkout today in protest alongside with other concerns. HHS Secretary RFK Jr. says that he carried out this clean sweep to reestablish public confidence in vaccine science, but even some Republicans are now concerned. GOP Senator Bill Cassidy, who's a physician, says the fear now is that the committee will be filled up with people who know nothing about vaccines except suspicion. Back in February, Cassidy explained his vote to confirm Kennedy in part by saying that it was because Kennedy said he wouldn't change the committee. Medical correspondent Dr. Darian Sutton.
And all I can say is you believed him. You believed him. You really did believe that RFK, a guy who literally screams the opposite of informed, was not going to change anything. He was following the Project 2025 playbook to a T. And it's amazing they trust there and say, well, we want to turn around and we want to reestablish faith with the public in vaccines. With who? People that have gotten vaccines are not complaining. At the same time, if you got a COVID vaccine, then yeah, you're not complaining. Why? Because you're alive. At the same time, if you've had a measles vaccine, you don't get the measles. You don't get smallpox. You don't get polio. You don't get any of these previous diseases that actually became outbreaks on their own. But thanks to the fact that we have vaccines, those things are things of the past. If we let RFK run the show, they'll be all making comebacks faster than Beyonce's next tour. I am just saying this is the reason why we all should be concerned. Because if RFK is going to be allowed to rewrite vaccines, then the anti-vaxxers, which I call every one of you, if you're an anti-vaxxer, you're an idiot. You are. I am completely unapologetic about that, because I will stress this very heavily. There's nothing wrong with vaccines. Vaccines have saved millions of lives. Do we need multiple vaccines? Yes. Have you seen the diseases we faced? At also the same time, do vaccines cause autism? They do not, no matter what anti-vaxxers say. There's plenty of studies out there that would support that otherwise. At the same time, will RFK wind up getting more people hurt than saved? Beyond a shadow of freaking doubt. But again, this is why I stare and say his administration from left to right is pretty much a caca show. But going back to a previous article we did cover about Trump's bans, yes, it's 2016 all over again.
And on a dozen countries is now in effect. The new ban impacts people from all of these nations that you see on the screen. The president's also imposing partial restrictions on entry from these 7 other countries. The White House says it's targeting countries that lack proper vetting, don't share identity and threat information, or have high visa overstay rates. ABC's Matt Rivers has more from Mexico City. Hi, Matt. So what are some of the immediate impacts now that this ban's in effect?
Yeah, so the immediate impact, of course, is going to be that hundreds of thousands of people who would travel to the United States for a variety of reasons over the coming months and years, whether it be working, whether it be to visit family members, whether it be for tourism, all of those visa applications are now going to be denied. Obviously, we know that there's a ban on the entry of the individuals from those countries, but effectively what's happening here is that when these countries' individuals go to the United States Embassy or a consulate in these countries and apply for a visa application, most of them are going to have those visa applications summarily denied. That has a number of different impacts, kind of what I listed off the top there. Of course, there's the obvious impacts of people coming here to work, people coming here for tourism, but you also have to remember that from these list 19 countries overall that's affected, you're talking about millions of people who are nationals or were nationals, maybe binational, have binational, dual citizenship of both countries that are already in the United States. So let's say you're someone from Chad, for example, you're living in the United States, you're not gonna be able to have family members come visit you. So there's the humanitarian side of this, there's the business side of this, but of course what the Trump administration is saying here is that these are countries with either a history of terrorism, whether they have histories of high rates of visa overstays. These are countries that were investigated by the State Department and found to be worthy of being included in this ban. Of course, there's going to be challenges in court, just like we saw during the first Trump administration.
So, yeah, what's crazy is, folks, is that we are now actually seeing, again, 2016 all over again. That I just want to get to this point because if you, and let me just throw this up there for a second. So, partial travel restrictions. Burgundy, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela are partial. Whereas Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen are no-goes. I wonder what all these countries have in common, because these are people of color countries. And some of those countries were the same ones that you put right back under the freaking thumb. Out of fear. Out of nothing but freaking fear. And that's the point of all this. That he wants to scare people into these things. And it just keeps getting worse. At the same time, folks, do want to bring up Harvard. Why do I want to bring up Harvard? Because Harvard, for lack of better words, seems to be in this escalating war with Taco. But now, other Ivy schools are coming along. Princeton, Yale, Dartmouth, Brown, and University of Pennsylvania are coming together to basically join in the court documents against Taco. And I can't knock it. It's a brilliant strategy. Because again, I mean, we still don't know the reason outside of Harvard pretty much saying F you to Taco is the reason why Taco has such a hard-on for this Ivy League school. But the fact that other schools are joining into the fight lets you know off the bat that it's not a money issue or a legal issue, because Harvard, Princeton, all have great law degrees. And if anything that Taco hates is lawyers, especially good ones. But another thing I wanted to bring up, because I'm in the South and religion is crazy down here. Southern Baptist, the Southern Baptist Convention decided during their convention that they wanted to pass a resolution calling for the reversal of the Supreme Court's decision on same-sex marriages. They are calling for a ban on that, on sports betting, and of course, corn. You can obviously see what I mean by corn, but go from there. It is amazing to me that these immediate religious groups out there can sit there and push regular citizens who may or may not believe in them, who may not believe in the same religion they do, are now trying to go to Congress to push forward their agendas. I will say it like this because I wasn't the first person that said it. George Carlin, in his genius, said this a long freaking time ago. If any religious institution decides that they want to join and basically put their particular, if they want to turn around and put their opinion out there in the world to which we pay taxes, then their 501c needs to disappear. Every church that attended that Southern Baptist Conference that believes in pushing this message, their churches should now be taxed like a regular business. And watch how quickly they would get quiet. But I think it's high time. If your church has an opinion to where it basically goes against or it follows taco vibes, yeah, you should be taxed. Churches are supposed to be neutral. Churches are supposed to be Switzerland and supposed to be welcoming everybody. But if you're going to basically ostracize people, then you should be taxed for it. Because again, I can go into the whole religious world of, the fact that being religious means you have to accept a lot of things. But again, we'll be here all night. Just know off the bat, George Carlin had it right. Tax the churches. We'll be a lot better off. The next story I got, guys, is still weird because I figure it must be cold somewhere. Because Senator Josh Hawley wants to basically push forward with a resolution to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Yes, the same Josh Hawley who was basically chicken feet during the January 6th insurrection with those terrorists. The same guy who basically voted Republican is also now trying to turn around and say, let's raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Let me tell you something. That's still poverty wages. It is still poverty wages. Why? Because everything has went up. $15 an hour will not get you in any door anywhere. At the same time, if the minimum wage actually followed GDP, our current production, the minimum wage would be somewhere between $28 and $35 an hour, because that's what you have to make. You literally have to be making $28 to a range of $28 to $35 an hour to basically live anywhere in the United States. $15 will simply not do that. At the same time, the fact that's coming from Republican, especially with Josh Hawley, I'm going to be honest, I don't see a lot of faith in that. I think it's going to pretty much fall on deaf ears because, again, I remember when President Biden tried to push for the minimum wage increase and Democrats didn't band together and say, you know what, we should do that. A lot of them got quiet, which tells you exactly how they feel about minimum wage, which, again, should be way higher by now since 2007. But, guys, I know we didn't really have a lot of news this week, but I do want to get to this one before we get to our feel-good segment, because if you don't know the name Terry Moran, you will tonight. This man, who was a part of ABC News, actually did a tweet over the weekend targeting Taco and Stephen Miller, calling them world-class haters. So he called them. He didn't call them any slanderous names. He didn't say anything out the bat. He just said world-class haters. That being said, he did eventually delete the tweet. ABC News decided to suspend Terry Moran, and as of just a little over 24 hours ago, have decided to end their contract with the former senior news correspondent and wish him well in his future endeavors. Here's what I say about this, because I expected this really out of NBC and MSNBC, because again, George Reed being let go, so many of the shows being axed from people of color, whereas you have, and again, this was MSNBC and NBC. Why? And then, of course, Morning Joe, but Morning Joe kisses Trump's ass whenever he gets a chance to. But the thing I'm getting at is they tailored their network so they do not catch the ire of Taco. At the same time, guys, you also have CBS, ABC, also trying to change their tunes. And I will never understand that for as long as I live. I will never understand why they are so afraid, and I mean this ever so succinctly, that these networks I could also understand it, but it's not liable. It's not slander, because there's some world-class haters. He didn't say anything that we already didn't say about the current president or worse. But because, and I said this before my Facebook post, I said this multiple times, that those owners of these networks grow a fracking backbone. As journalists, you are supposed to deliver the news, to inform, to influence, and encourage others to do the same. We do the same thing here on How the Frack We Got Here. We are unapologetic in our words. We stand on what we say. And I have said many a times what Taco was. I have said many a times what Stephen Miller is. And I've yet to be wrong about that. But it amazes me so that you have these networks, which again are consolidated and owned by a handful of people, are now trying to swing their weight around. We saw it at CNN. We saw it at ABC News. We see it at MSNBC. It makes no sense to turn around and remove personnel because you think it might ruffle the feathers of a man-child in the White House. And I don't blame, it's the thing about this. I don't get the whole reason to remove Terry Moran, because all he said was world-class haters, when Fox News and its correspondents at that laughing stock of a network have said way worse, and yet everybody there is still gainfully employed. Makes no sense. But we're going to go and move on to our feel-good news segment, guys, because usually How the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, so it's not making you faith you may. But hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. We will leave you guys out some good vibrations, and hopefully the next one will do that, as we do see a coach getting his flowers for the impact that he has on his kids and his community.
A look at how one of the Thunder players, Isaiah Hartenstein, is giving back through an organization called Positive Tomorrows. It offers kids stability and quality education while giving parents the support they need to create a better life. And right now we are joined by one of those families, Leliana Brooks, and her son, Jason. Good morning to both of you. Thank you so much for getting up so early to be with us. Leliana, congratulations to you. We hear that you just graduated with your certification in phlebotomy. Tell us a little bit about how Positive Tomorrows has impacted you and Jason.
They've supported us since we came here from California in 2022. They've supported us as far as housing, therapy for my son, childcare. They just support us with everything.
Just incredible. And let's talk about these finals here, because Jason, tell us why you're such a big Thunder fan. What is it about this team?
They're the GOAT.
And what makes them that way?
They got Isaiah. They got Shay. They cooking. They're unstoppable.
And Mom, how about you? What makes you such a big Thunder fan?
Jason.
That's fitting. It's usually the kids that'll get you interested in something. We can see his Thunder shirt, how big of a fan he is. Jason, we also heard that today just happens to be your birthday. Is that true? You're looking a little shy over there. Happy birthday to you, Jason. We not only want to wish you a very happy birthday, but we've got a little
We should do something about his birthday, right? What do you think?
I think so. We've got a little surprise for you and Mom. You guys, are you ready for this? You're going to go to Game 2 of the NBA Finals as special guests of Thunder player Isaiah Hartenstein. ESPN is giving you 2 tickets to tonight's game. Jason, you don't have to be shy anymore.
You're going to the game.
You're holding back that smile.
You're going to the game.
And we have a message for you from Isaiah. Take a look at this.
Hey, Liliana and Jason, I'm excited to have you guys at Game 2. Thank you guys for all the support. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thunder up.
What do you think of that? Are you excited to go to the game?
Yeah, very excited. Thank you so much.
Well, it's well deserved. And of course, they need their top fans in the house to cheer them on. So congratulations. Happy birthday, Jason.
Thank you.
Well, enjoy the game, guys.
You.
All right. And a reminder here, you can watch Game 2 of the
Okay, so might have been a slight problem that again the story didn't get out there, but 1 second, we're gonna try that one more time because although that's great because the NBA Finals are going on and happy that they actually could see that, but that's not necessarily the story. The story that we're looking at should be let's try it again.
We are back now with our series Sideline Superheroes, shining a light on coaches across the country making a difference in their communities. Ike Ajayi is at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, home of the Indiana Pacers in Indianapolis, with one coach who's a true leader on and off the court. Hey, Ike.
Hey, Michael, good morning. The NBA is getting ready for Game 3 of the finals between the Indianapolis Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's why we're here highlighting a very special coach. Coach Chris Hawkins here is a 3-time Indianapolis Coach of the Year who took his students to several conference championships and state tournaments. But if you ask anyone here, they'll tell you that he is so much more than a great coach. He's an amazing mentor, a leader of men who leads by excellence. Let's all give it up for Coach Hawkins, right? Come on now. Now, Coach, talk to me. What's it like being a coach for this team for so long?
I mean, it's an honor and a privilege. Historic school with so many great people that have graduated from the school and went to do different things, like Oscar Robertson, Ray Crow, Hallie Bryant, Stanley Warren, just to name a few. There's just so many people that have graduated and did great things. So just being a historic school that has so much history, and it's just special. They support us great.
Right. Now we have the principal here, Principal Franklin. Thank you so much for being here this morning. You've known Chris for almost 10 years now. So talk to me about the impact he has, not only as a coach, but also as the athletic director here.
When I first hired Coach Hawkins, he told me he was going to bring state title. He was going to bring glory back to the high school.
Okay.
And he's done exactly that. And so again, very proud. I have a lot of great team members at Crispus Attucks, but Coach Hawkins is an invaluable member of our team. He brings a lot to the culture and climate of our school. He does a lot with our students, not just our student athletes, because he's also our athletic director, but not just our student athletes, but all students. And so you'll find him just being silly in the cafeteria. You'll find him planning pep rallies, just wanting to make sure our kids have a phenomenal high school experience. And so for that, we're incredibly grateful.
Grateful. I know these students are grateful. So I got to ask you, you've been working with these students for almost a decade now. What have you learned from them?
I think the biggest thing is just, patience, just being able to, figure out just how we can help them. I think resilience, when our backs are against the wall, just being able to trust in them. I think the biggest thing is just the belief that, we can do anything together. Right. So we're just tied to the hip, and I'm extremely grateful for them and our coaches and our staff.
Now, I got to ask you, you're a Pacers fan, and a lifelong Pacers fan. So what do you think about tonight, Game 3?
I mean, Game 3, I think they can get it.
Okay.
They can get it.
Well, how about this? We got a little surprise from you. Someone you may know on the Pacers got a little message for you. Take a look.
Okay.
Hi, Coach Hawkins. I hear you're not only an incredible basketball coach, but a huge Indiana Pacers fan. Since you've had such an impact at Crispus Attucks High School, I want to give you 2 tickets to the Thunder Pacers game. Congratulations. Thank you for all you do in the community.
Did you hear that?
Yes, sir.
2 tickets. That's all right. And hold on, wait a minute. We're gonna need some swag to help you out. We got you. Oh, the freshest. Miles Turner. How you feeling right now?
Feeling great.
Guys, we're gonna have some fun here.
Thank you.
Back to you.
All right. And congratulations, Coach Hawk.
And that's cool. Like I said, everybody's getting to watch the finals. Always a great thing. But that's going to do it, guys, for this podcast. Do thank you all for liking, for watching. Glad people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. I do want to shout out Always Press Record TV. Why? Because How the Frack Got Here shows on that network. It can be seen on the Roku channel as well as Amazon Fire TV. Definitely check them out at Always Press Record or APR TV. Also, Blur Station, guys, please check out Blur Station. Again, another table for our type of programming, our content, and most importantly, our dollars should be going to. Definitely check out BlurStation.com, $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station on all smart devices. If you do want to join, select to join now. Select the Bird's Eye View of any memberships like Black Spartan, and I certainly appreciate that. And happy streaming. And also, guys, runforoffice.org. You've heard me talk about this. You want to know how the crazy people do it, how Moms for Liberty did it? It's basically because of this site. If you type in your address, it'll actually show you how you can actually run for office, whether you feel the call to serve locally or nationally. You can definitely do that and run and hopefully win. I keep saying this all the time, guys. We need more people involved. That is the only way we're going to prevent a third version of Taco. And trust me, he's trying to figure out a way to get around it. That also being said, guys, you can definitely check us out on How the Frack We Got Here on all the socials, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, and all that good stuff. As for myself, Black_Spartan615, you can definitely like, share, and follow me. And again, just like NPR, guys, we can do none of this without you, as my daughter Zuri is up and active. Yeah, I love her to death, though. But yes, we cannot do any of this without you. So definitely like, definitely share, definitely subscribe. Let people know about the episodes, because we are trying to fight the algorithm, but this person's got hands. At the same time, guys, don't doom scroll. I know a lot of things are happening in the world right now, but don't doom scroll. Really get outside, enjoy the environment, because it's summertime. Please make smart decisions, because again, we don't want anybody doing dumb stuff unless you're trying to get into good trouble. But at the same time, check on your friends, call or text. This is also check on your people. You never know what somebody could be going through, but maybe just saying hi or saying hello, let them know you're thinking about them could save a life. Trust me, you really could. At the same time, guys, again, protect your peace. Do something that makes you laugh and have fun. Because we are going to get through this together. If anything California has shown us, we can do great things when we band together. But the last thing I say about the Frack Got Here, guys, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. Do we do better as society once we're informed? We progress, that we move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past, making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, and maybe one day electing our first black woman to be called Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up with our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old gang in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we'll get through this. Have a good night, guys. Good night and good luck. Peace.